A series of steps. Here we go. A series of steps. Here we go. Okay, we're ready to go.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'd like to start us out with our opening motto of the social ethic by Rudolf Steiner. The healing social life is found when in the mirror of each human soul, the whole community finds its reflection, and when in the community, the virtue of each one is living. Just doesn't feel right to remove the song portion of that. But if anybody has a song that they'd like to share for us to start us off, that'd be wonderful.
Where's Peter when we need him?
I know. In the song sharing, I always say that my favorite song is the Lantern Song, and it probably is for one of the reasons that you or Pepe Phelps, Principal Pepe Phelps, is the reflection that we're all stars to the sky. That is just a beautiful section of that, and I hope we all carry that song in our heart as we maybe move on to the next part. Does that sound good? Awesome. All right. Well, I'll use that as my excitement. I love the winter. I love this change in the season. I can't wait to be snow blowing my driveway instead of mowing my lawn. Let's get the snow coming. So that'll be my 2 cents as I embrace winter and all of the, it just has this, to me, winter has a very quaint feeling. You feel like you're the only person in the world who's out walking the streets and enjoying the sounds, and I dig me some winter.
Well, my excitement is spending time with my daughter, Audrey, who is a sophomore in college down in Florida, and get a few days of being with her. And it's nice to see her friends and her school, and she's really happy, and it makes me happy. So.
I can go next. My excitement, I think, is really on the heels of some fantastic parent-teacher conferences, and just having that experience of meeting with my daughter's 6th grade teacher and discussing how things are going, and having that opportunity for that in-person meeting, and the sharing that happens. I'm just very, very thankful, and had opportunities with our graduate now at West as well. Feeling really blessed to have such wonderful teachers in our lives, and hoping that we can do everything we can to support our teachers and honor their work. That's my excitement sharing.
Jessie, I'd love to tag on to that from the flip side of that, and really celebrate parent-teacher conferences. It just is, it's a really delightful opportunity to really get a chance to individually connect with all of the families, and really, yeah, the support that you're talking about, it is very, very palpable. So thank you, all of you. And all of my meetings were Zoom. So, I mean, I'm still feeling it through the barriers of technology. We have an amazing, amazingly collaborative community, and I'm super grateful for that.
I have excitement. Rhett turned 7 this week, and I'm excited. We invited his class over on Saturday to come have a slice of pumpkin pie and tie-dye a shirt outside. So he hasn't had any play dates in 2 years. It's exciting. So, he's looking forward to it. He's outside right now scooping up leaves. He's scooped up 8 bags of leaves. And so that's also exciting. He's getting ready for that party.
Well, my excitement is me and Lauren have actually been hunting and searching out in Willow for quite some time for a piece of property out there. And we finally closed on a piece of property out there last week. So we got a little getaway to get out of town, and super exciting. So we got to spend last weekend there. And then Ashlyn's going to take one of her friends, and we're going to go out there again this weekend. And I get the pleasure of building a woodshed.
Awesome. Let me pull up the approval of agenda. This agenda had a lot of items on it. And I'm certainly happy to put it in front of the team and see what of this we can bite off. But I guess we don't have to specifically set dates for the calendar. We can, I'm open to ideas, but look at trying to do that. And a lot of the items that are on here are APC oriented. And so, in a perfect world, this became part, items from our APC training were integrated routinely into our meetings. So we might not have to bite off every bit of that as well, but we can acknowledge it and keep it on the keep it on the agenda as well for future meetings.
It would be great
Molly,
if we could screen share it in any business.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please. Is that something you can help me with, Julie? Is screen share the minutes or the agenda?
Well, if you go to the bottom, because I gave you co-host privileges, if you go to the bottom where it says share with a little green arrow.
Okay.
And then you can and then sometimes it just tells you, it'll say like agenda or on your screen, you click.
Awesome. Participants chat, screen share.
Mhm.
Okay. Multiple advance. So I just click on that and then I pull up my.
Here you go. Perfect. We need to expand it a little.
Yeah, does that work?
Yeah.
Or is it too small and I need to
No, it's
zoom?
good on mine. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Going to now. Box checked. On the opening, approval of minutes, approval of agenda, we are here. Community comments, and then
Do we
kind of
want
have our
Molly,
pattern informal.
do you want Molly to pull up the minutes and we want to look those over and approve?
From last week or last month.
Yeah. Let me see here. Molly.
Oh, I see. I skipped a step there. Sorry, everybody. Disorganized. Approval of a minutes. That's from last week.
And then if you stop sharing, I think at the top it'll say stop share, and then Molly can pull up the minutes from last week. She can share and we can look them over. Nice.
There was an addition, this is a note to myself, there was the 3-body meeting topic was added to the agenda, but I don't know where it goes. It wasn't really an action item. So someone can advise me where to put.
I think that that was just an item that was commented on last meeting. If you keep scrolling down, that would help me. Okay, Mark. I think we added it towards the end under general business, or trying to remember that. Yes. Mhm. I think it was right in there. Yes. Thank you.
All right, does anyone need to see anything? Oh, and in the email, I emailed it out earlier today, and I was wondering, do you prefer it in this structure where I just attach the other reports on the end? Or do you prefer it as a Google Doc folder with all of the items in the folder? Or do you have any preference?
I like it all as one document, so you just go through and read it all at the same time. That would be my preference.
Okay.
Is that for the written reports?
Yes, so I have the minutes, and then I just cut and pasted the administrative report and the faculty report and the budget report, so it could all be in one.
I agree. I think that's nice.
Okay.
Just so long as we definitely want those to be a part of our record. So that's the question. And oftentimes it's good practice to do less. So that's a thing to think about.
With the minutes.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I think we're waiting for someone to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Awesome. That means I'm up next. I'll do a little screen share here if everybody's ready. Here's the agenda for today. Approval of minutes, approval of agenda. Everybody get a chance to read it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Nice second. This is Jessie.
Thank you, Sarah and Jesse. All right. Stop screen sharing there for a second, and that moves us into community comments. 3 minutes each. Please note this is the public's time to talk and the board's time to listen. Winterberry Charter Council does not hear complaints against students or personnel in public session. It is not the board's practice to engage in discussion or to answer questions during community comments. Commenters' names will be recorded in the minutes. Thank you. we have anybody that would like to contribute today? All right, just a normal team meeting. Informational reports, administrator report. I'll open the floor
Right.
for you, Principal Pepe Phelps.
Okay, thank you. And I will share my screen. Let's see. Who are you? No, that's the budget report. Let's see. No, it's the there. Stop share. Let's see here. There you guys. Thanks. It's on my other screen. That's so funny. I can't, let me see if I can pull it over. All right. You see the report? Yes, thumbs up, no? All right. All right. So I'll start with our mission, growing the innate potential of each child, and our vision to receive the children in reverence, to educate them in love, and send them forth in freedom. Gratitude to the families that continue to provide staff meals on Thursdays. We love that and we're really grateful. Our community noon Zoom on the 22nd of September was a great little connection. I'll continue those community noon Zooms. We're still welcoming new families through the lottery. It's been a very, very strange year, but I think we may be right at the very end of that. But and also I'd just like to encourage all families to read Winterberry Business every Thursday. It's a newsletter that we put together that highlights all the things that happen during the week and all the upcoming events. It helps to keep everybody informed, all the parents and friends of Winterberry and different faculty and staff. Catch Mag Bay trip was great fun and a great success. Our grade 6 showcased their felted animal masks this week, and that was kind of a new little thing that happened at Winterberry with our new handwork teacher, and that was really fun. I heard good things. Winterberry cross country running was very popular. We had our championships and everybody did a great job. With all of our runners did a wonderful, we always say about Winterberry, small but mighty. And we will have a cross country ski team this year for grades 6, 7, and 8. We have an ongoing need for substitutes. There's a district-wide shortage, and I just wanted to put it out there for parents to please consider possibly subbing for us. We have upcoming needs through our winter months for parents, even for short periods of time, half day and things like that. So if that's something that is interesting to any parents, please consider it. Parent-teacher conferences this week. I'm sure our faculty will tell us about how that went. Our Festival of Courage on September 30th was really beautiful and meaningful. It was very fun to come together and watch our play by our second grade class, and then every other class either was a very captivated audience or performed some little taste of what's happening in their classroom, a verse or a song or something with their rods, and that was really, it was a fun event, a school event for the children and faculty and staff. We also launched Oktoberfest this year, which was also an in-school event that culminated our German language for this quarter. And it was very successful, and children got to show each other classes got to show each other what kinds of things they were working on in their German class. We had a WCC board training on the 9th, and I appreciate all the board members that came to that training and the ones that joined us on Zoom. There's all kinds of good information that came out of that training, which we will touch on probably in tonight's meeting, and then hopefully discuss in further meetings. We're in discussion right now in our faculty and staff about the outdoor eating as weather gets colder, and trying to find new ways of having students eat in a safe and appropriate and warm manner as weather gets colder. We have a new eurythmist coming to Winterberry during October and November, and then also again in January, and we're sharing that time with Anchorage Waldorf School. We have an open house that we had talked about for November 9th, and that is TBA. We'll see how things unfold for that. Coming up, we have budget approval for next school year, and our request for our 3-body meeting, our principal evaluation, and board self-evaluation. So hopefully all those kinds of topics came up in our WCC board training on the 9th. So looking forward to being a part of all that with the WCC. I wanted to just read the verse that I have been reading lately. We must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what comes toward us out of the future. We must acquire serenity in all feelings and sensibilities concerning the future. We must look forward with absolute equanimity to all that may come, and we must think only that whatever comes is given to us by a world direction full of wisdom. It is part of what we must learn in this age, namely, to live out of pure trust, without any security in existence. Trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. Truly nothing else will do if our courage is not to fail us. Let us discipline our will, and let us seek the awakening from within ourselves every morning and every evening. Rudolf Steiner. Are there any questions?
I had a question, maybe it's a silly one. What exactly is the role of the eurythmist? What do they do?
Good. The eurythmy is a part of Waldorf schools. It's specific to Waldorf schools, and it is basically words in motion. It's a movement art that that children learn and participate in, that has to do with moving sounds and moving words and moving there's eurythmy movements to verses of that students say, and it has to do, it's a little bit complex because it comes out of Rudolf Steiner's belief systems in movement and sound and things like that. And there will be some opportunity for parents to be kind of in the know about things. We'll do some kind of Zoom or something so that we can educate our parents on what that is, and because that's not a super descriptive view of what eurythmy is, but really it's words and movement in motion. If anybody has any more descriptive, they can pop.
An example. I think I remember that from my reading, but I can't remember it. Maybe is it like what I would consider circle time?
No, it's actually more specific. It's like it's almost, how the kids are learning the Alaska flag song in sign language. Mm-hmm. And in some ways it could be like having you could equate it a little bit to sign language because it has to do with how a word gets transferred into movement.
Okay. Okay. I have like familiarity with that. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That made it super clear for you, right, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I'm good to go now.
It's pretty cool, actually. I mean, I think Principal Peppy Phelps really described it quite well. But yeah, each letter had and the sound associated with each letter has a gesture that corresponds to it. And so when a verse or a poem is recited and also moved in eurythmy, kind of the essence of the feeling of each of those sounds is teased out and given a gesture to go along with it. And sometimes it kind of looks like dance, and you're right, Mark, sometimes it's elements of circle. And how it looks when a eurythmist comes to the school, it is provided to the students as developmentally appropriate gestures and activities. So in the kindergarten realm, it would look like eurythmy would look like circle time. Up in 8th grade, it would look like maybe more like a dance type thing to verse and poetry. So it kind of changes a little bit, and none of us can really explain what eurythmy is. It's very fun to be part of, though.
Well, it sounds really interesting. I think between the two of you guys gave me a pretty good idea of what it could be. So.
Should we transition into faculty report? Imagine you guys. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You want to take it, Glasser?
We can, yeah, I am just pulling up the notes. We had Principal Peppy Phelps mentioned that we had an Oktoberfest celebration, and that was really fun. I know I got to go out there with 2nd grade, and it was 2nd grade, 4th grade, and 7th grade. So they all got to see what they're doing in the middle grades and the upper grades, and the 2nd graders were very proud to stand up there and sing their banana song in German. It was sweet. It was really exciting because it was the first time we've ever done that. Cross country running came to a close, and I know Mr. Crawford celebrated that just as it was a wonderful success, and the kids really had a blast. Now that is closing out, Ms. Towner and I are Battle of the Books coaches, and we'll be starting that practices up in the next couple of weeks. So there'll be that opportunity. That's grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then cross country skiing for the upper grades. And then I don't know, do you want to do Lantern Walk, Lisa?
Yeah, Lantern Walk's coming up. We have it scheduled for October 19th. That's a Friday.
November 19th.
I mean, yeah, not October 19th. That was yesterday. Y'all missed it. Sorry. Yeah, November 19th. It's a Friday. And yeah, it will be really nice. We had a modified Lantern Walk available last year, but this will be, an opportunity for us to all come together in the Lantern Walk that we're familiar with and that we know. And even if we have, some families who are a little bit hesitant to come together in large gatherings, I think this one will be accessible for everyone because it's a purely outdoor event. So we're really excited about that, and we'll be starting in on building our lanterns and practicing our songs. And so Mark will be singing your song in kindergarten every day. And Sarah, do you want me to keep?
Yeah, you can keep going, and I'll take the last one.
Yeah, so those were kind of some of our celebrations. And then Wing and conferences, of course, is a huge celebration. Everyone that I've had the opportunity to speak to in the small amount of time from when they ended to when this meeting started has just been really bubbling over with the joy of what conferences brings. it is a really wonderful opportunity to connect individually with families and celebrate the children who are before us every day and who you share with us every day. So it's really wonderful. Very, very heavy in our hearts and minds right now, teachers and staff. Right now, ASD and AEA, our teacher union, and Totem, the staff and faculty, or the faculties or staffs union, are in contract negotiations. So there's a lot on the table right now, and it's pretty unresolved. Our unions are working strong for us to make sure that that we are supported very well. But there hasn't been much resolution and there hasn't been much movement. So that's something that faculty is definitely, as a body, keeping its eye on and keeping it. It takes some of our attention for sure. Principal Pepe Phelps mentioned that there are district-wide substitute and staffing shortages, and that is, affecting all of the schools in the district. It's definitely affecting Winterberry too during the times, when teachers or other staff have to be out. We're filling in for each other because subs are frequently not filling the posted jobs. It makes it pretty challenging for us to figure out ways to use our allocated personal leave, and also to be very conscious of keeping ASD symptom free, because really we should be staying home when we're not feeling well, and knowing that we don't have subs to fill for our classes makes that pretty tricky. So the encouragement that Principal Pepe Phelps gave for increasing our substitute pool within Winterberry is very heartily seconded from the faculty body for sure. So those are two topics that are weighing on us right now. And there's another one that Ms. Glasser is going to talk about.
I forgot to mention parent conferences. I was also going to say, I feel like parent conferences are always a positive time between staff, but I was downstairs and I got to touch bases with Ms. Cronick and Mr. Shea and Mr. Jensen. And it felt like this year, more than usual, parents were they were filled with gratitude, and they expressed that gratitude. And so that was really nice, because it's a tough year in lots of ways. And so I just wanted to share that. Personally, it was a great round. Principal Pepe Phelps mentioned that the staff is talking about eating outside as colder weather comes. And one thing that we've noticed is that the younger students, kindergarten, first grade, second grade particularly, are having the hardest time when it gets cold, taking off their gloves and eating. And so we are trying to come up with a plan to see if we can move inside safely. Mr. Jensen reached out to Melissa Pike, the epidemiologist that leaves community comments for this board, just to see what kind of mitigation factors we could put in place for inside eating. One of the things that she said would be important is to have the silent lunch, where kids are, while their mask is down inside, they wouldn't be talking, which is how we do meals inside anyway. And so if we move inside, then we would be reading aloud to children. They'd be able to eat. I know that Ms. Stratford, Ms. Cronick, and we talked to all our families during conference just to kind of see what the comfort level was with that. And it seemed, for the most part, that people were very comfortable. There were a few people that needed to consider it, but we've got air filters in the room now going full blast. And Shane has been working to try and figure out any kind of strategy that we could do to maybe split classes. So we just wanted to mention that we're thinking about it. We're trying to think of ways that kids can be warm, but do it safely with the best advice from the experts in the field. And I think the feedback that I had in second grade was people felt confident in the staff and teachers to make decisions that were safe ones.
Thank you, Sarah and Lisa. Miss Sarah, Miss Lisa. WPG report. Thanks, Jesse. Hi.
Hello, yes, I have a very short report. Just primarily because our WPG meeting on the 7th was a very on point and brief meeting. The biggest thing I'd want to highlight, just flowing from that meeting with the Winterberry Parent Guild, is a focus on the garden campaign, and want to acknowledge all the hard work, especially from Iris Hilsinger, who spearheads that endeavor with a lot of other broad support within the Guild. That campaign is rolling right now, and we are encouraging 100% participation from all families in our school in hopes of raising funds to support teacher training. So just want to highlight that opportunity and major takeaway from our meeting earlier this month on October 7th. I don't have further business to report flowing from that meeting, but I do want to express that we heard ongoing comments of appreciation and acknowledgement for teachers. And on behalf of the Parent Guild, I do want to express that here on the record for this WCC meeting, how much we really do appreciate our faculty and our entire staff at Winterberry. Thank you very much for all you do for our children.
I had a quick question, Jesse. In previous years, teachers have been able to see what percentage of their class has given, and I haven't seen anything. So if they want us to send out a reminder, like to our classes, I'm not sure what we should be thinking to see.
Thank you for that feedback. And so I thought that there is still a desire to have that kind of a friendly competition to see who can reach 100%, but then also just a nice way to gauge engagement. And then there was good dialogue around how to best support families who might not be in a position to give, and just encouraging in general, first and foremost, any amount that's meaningful is meaningful to us. And if families are unable to give, there are key opportunities for families to adopt another family and to provide a donation in that regard. So thank you, Ms. Glasser. I'll follow up to see the right mechanism to encourage the tracking class by class. Thank you.
I know the competitive side of me. I saw the email that said first grade was in the lead, and I thought, but then I realized, I'm a parent in first grade.
Good, very good point. Thank you.
Budget report. Hi, Shana.
Yeah. Hi. So I emailed the budget report to everybody. I don't know if everybody's been able to have a chance to look at it or not, or if you want to, Mark, if you want to bring it up, you're welcome to do that, or Julie can. So OASIS ends tomorrow. For those of you who don't know what OASIS is, it's the 4-week period count of students registered at Winterberry. That's a final, the final budget is based on the OASIS count. Our preliminary budget, which we would have done last year, is an estimated of student count. So this is the final numbers that we have. If the count is up from what our estimate, then we receive additional funding. If the count is down from what our estimate, then they transfer some of those funds out to balance. Currently, we have a total of 230 registered students. So we are down 20 students from our estimate, which is pretty significant, but that is something that has been seen throughout the district. Enrollment is down everywhere. However, we should receive the final adjusted fiscal year 22 budget sometime next week. They'll give us the final count. Typically, it won't be the 230. It'll be whatever exact, amount they come up with. We do have the funds available and unallocated to make up for that difference, whatever that may be. Again, they'll tell me at that moment, just because it was something that we knew that was a possibility with every all the schools everywhere being down. We were lucky last year we weren't down, but just 2 students. And this year, unfortunately, we did get hit like all the other charter schools. Our fiscal year 23 budget is starting. They're going to ask for our student count estimate soon by next week, which is what next year will be determined on, and we'll get the budget then. We'll receive the fiscal year 23 budget projections soon after they receive those numbers and calculate it. At that time, then I'll be able to begin with our budget, put everything in the right places. Of course, with some flux, as we still don't know what the unions have agreed on yet. So we'll have to play with that a little bit. And then I'll have an itemized report for everybody for us to either go through on our next meeting, or if it doesn't, I don't have everything finalized by our next meeting, then we'll definitely have a special session in order for us to vote on. So once we have everything, we'll vote on that budget, and then that can be submitted to the school district for their final board approval. Does anybody have any questions?
So I just have a couple of fast questions. One is, I understand that enrollment was down for the entire district, and that might have been anticipated. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that for our schools, how critical enrollment is for that base student allocation and those funds that our school receives that keep track with the number of students that are in our school.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that we had some unallocated funds that could fill that gap. Can you speak to that a little more and what those might have been thought of? I know they were unallocated, but the purpose in mind for those dollars. And then my other question related to that is, when you're looking at projections for next year, is it your thought that your count will be reduced, reflecting our experience now, or are you thinking maybe with some more time, we could hopefully see enrollment go back up?
So let me first answer the one. So the unallocated is based, is money that was somewhat anticipated because we had additional funding. We made everything in our budget. We had more last year than what we previously had. So we have met everything in our budget. We had extra money, anything of extra money, instead of putting it with supplies or things like that. And it was an anticipation of possibly, like I said, I'm a what if. We were hopeful. We made it last year. We were very hopeful, but it was where should we put it? Let's put it here. And in a safe place. If we don't need it for that, then hey, we have extra money for contracts, for other things. We also have the additional money of unallocated because last year we did have some rollover funds. And so that's where that's put. So it's just a little buffer that I like to have for just, especially at this time of year. So in the second part, as far as an estimate, that is something that that Julie and I will discuss, and what it would look like. I honestly, I don't know what we're going to decide, what will be. I'll have to look to see what the numbers are, because we still have to come up with a number, that's gonna meet. Because if we do think, okay, well, let's do 230 for next year, because that's where we're at, and say, yay, if we're over that and get that extra money. Well, if we get that extra money, we don't have it available to us till November. So then we don't have no funds to pay for certain things, like an additional TA or other things that we would need. So it's kind of like trying to find that sweet spot of what we need to survive, but yet not too much because they're going to take it away. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yes, and my last comment, it's not a question, it's a comment. It's just to remind the board that in the past, this board has talked a lot about the importance of recruitment and what that can look like and feel like. And I know these past 2 years have been very challenging, just given the pandemic and the pressures around that. But I do think that this is just an appropriate time to comment on the importance of that. And for us to remain focused on that as an overarching goal as a board, how to support our administration with recruitment efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shana.
Yeah.
Committee reports. Should we start out with the administrative committees?
So will you read those out, Mark? Because I don't have an agenda.
Yeah. Let's see. So we have administrative committees, safety, and outdoor play space are the three underneath the committee reports. And the first one is the administrative committee. Is there maybe question as to who's on that one?
Are you talking about, is the first administrator report the safety report?
Oh, yes, I see. Yes.
Okay. So the safety report typically is on that committee is me and Miss Colleen, our nurse, and Miss Shana serves on that committee also, as does our faculty chair. And we, not to this date, have had we usually have a meeting during this week, our safety meeting, the week of our WCC meeting, and we have not had that meeting this month. So we will have it most likely next week, and I'll have the update in our next WCC meeting.
Awesome. And outdoor play space.
I spoke with Una Martin, who is our outdoor play space aficionado for our school today. And she and I talked about a few options in terms of the build out of some of those overhanging little barrel. You might have seen it in the outdoor classroom. It was a brainchild of she and her husband, who's a builder. And anyway, we've talked about the use of the rest of the materials for that and kind of the ideas and going forward. And I said, well, let's just hold off a little bit on building some things out until we figure out what's going to happen as far as our eating spaces go. So she was all for waiting and not putting any work into things that may not be needed at this point. So that at this point in time, that is it. There was lots and lots of mud. We got some hay and spread it all over the mud, some local hay and also some local straw over our muddy spots. And it sort of helped a little until the freeze came, but then we just had mud and hay in the school. But anyway, that's as much of the report from the outdoor play space as I have today.
Terrific. We love them. The WCC subcommittees, legislative policy, and then followed up with grant committee.
Mm-hmm. So for legislative policy, there's just a couple things to make note of. One is that the state has pointed to retention issues with teachers and a desire to explore why that is. You'll see more news around that as they're looking to identify a contractor to evaluate that. But it is something that is getting more attention in terms of teacher retention and the loss of teachers and the impact that that's having across the state. I don't have particular bills or legislation to point out at the state level, as the special session is really focused on some other issues at this point in time. But I do think at a local level, it is important to again acknowledge what we shared earlier today, and that's just around the negotiations underway and impact that has on our teachers here in the district. And that is important to make note of at this meeting. That's what I have on that, but open to any questions there might be. Okay, thank you.
Right. On to business. And, I guess I briefly touched on this earlier, is part of the highlights of the board training that we did on October 9th. We'll make a little slot in future agendas to remind ourselves of those subjects and keep them fresh in our actions. The meeting was packed with information. I certainly would have to watch it again to start all of the patterns that are needed to integrate full, at least for myself, initiation of those rules. But it was great. It was fun. They did a good job making it entertaining and bringing people in, and that's pretty cool. Would anybody like to discuss some of the reminders lessons from? I know for me, I need to set a goal for establishing my ASD email account and then getting that email account put into my Outlook that I commonly use, so that it doesn't, so that it becomes integrated into my Mark Stover system. But that was certainly part of it, and they discussed why it's important and how it benefits everybody else beyond me. So that is part of my goals and lessons out of that meeting. Is it possible to do this section, Julie, more of a conversation, and just we do a couple of sections where we all remind each other on that, and then move into the next section? What would you like to do best out of that?
I think that anybody who participated in that WCC training, it'd be nice to hear some kind of highlights, just, and then go more methodically into, our plans going forward, our dates for, I thought that was great that you put the calendar forth. I think that's a really important, thing to have those dates on the calendar, that we can move toward that, because we know that when we put dates on the calendar, it's more likely to happen. And I guess there are some good reminders about Open Meetings Act, which I'll just say, any more than 2 people on the WCC talking to each other is a violation of Open Meetings Act. So 2 people on WCC can talk about, can have, it is the best practice not to discuss any WCC business outside of an open meeting. That is best practice. But in real life, when people get together and then they start to talk about things that are happening at school or whatever, and those people happen to be WCC members, let's say, once you start to kind of venture into those waters, the best thing to do is to say, okay, whoops, I can see that we're getting into board business. Maybe we should, talk about maybe putting a committee together, asking the chair to put that forth for next meeting or something. Kind of just being mindful that this particular body operates as a solid body and never people individually. I think that was the best, takeaway for me, reminder, and that liability and things like that is much more, is in a much sounder experience when the body operates as one. When people start fractioning off and talking about things outside of this body, it becomes a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and much more, it's not good practice. Also, just having to do with our 3-body meeting, I think it's really one of the most important things is to get that meeting on the table, because that will produce the goals and objectives that we need, that this body needs to develop so that they can direct me, their one employee, to carry out those goals for the year. That's how the principal, and then from those goals and objectives, that's how this body evaluates what job I'm doing, and how, recommendations for me, ways to improve, things like that, by having a set goals and objectives that get developed and then get communicated to me, and then I put forth those goals through my job throughout the year. So, and then the evaluation of what I'm doing in a timely way that happens not in April or May like we've done in other years, but happens in February, because that would be the time that I could turn, do things in a different way as an employee, but also if things need to change direction, then that's February that's happening, and not in April. So it's just good. And then the board self-evaluation. How is the board doing? How are the board members doing their jobs? Who's serving on committees ongoingly? Things like that. It's important to look to ourselves and see what, how the board is doing, because it's an important, it's the governing body of our school. So it's good to take a good look at those kinds of things too. And that's it for me. And Nick?
I was just curious. I was sad I missed it. I had to work on Saturday and we got pretty busy. Is there a way to go back? I mean, did they stream it or anything like that where you could actually go back and watch it?
Yeah, they did. And I'll go back in my emails, because I know that I forwarded on the documents, but I don't know if they sent us a link or whether we go to their, I'll go back, Nick, and make a little note and send that to Mark, and then Mark, you could send it out if
Yeah, terrific. I guess I was gonna, I can't remember if it was in an email already or if, but if you had access to it, I'd be happy to send it out and also hit some of the highlights there that need to stick more than once.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate that.
Should we move into the next section there? Would anybody else like to contribute? I imagine Peter would also, if he was in our meeting today, would have something he'd be excited to say, but maybe we'll grab him on the next time he comes around and he can help share some of the ideas that came from that meeting of charter schools.
And Sue is there too.
So what I have here in a second is their updated roster. And there was a question earlier as to whether we had a forum. We have 9 people, but in our meeting today, there are 12 filled spaces, but that also means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 openings in our group. And I wasn't there for the August meeting. And we had a few people that were interested in joining the board during that time. Is there something I can do to help grab the ball and run with it on that?
I think maybe let's wait till Peter gets back and talk to him about it. Jesse?
Well, and I just have a question just to follow up on quorum. So in terms of how we're counting members and identifying voting members that that count for that attendance, right? So, for instance, we have one faculty member. Is that right?
I see Lisa, Sarah, Shayna, and that's it.
So,
But then, of course, there would be Molly as well, but she's down as recording secretary, which isn't actually technically a seat.
so Sarah and Lisa are the seats for faculty.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying. They each have their own seat?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, thank you.
And then seat C is Shayna. And if you'd like, I continue
Yeah,
to
if
go.
you could share, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Do that.
Or I can look to email here on the other
And
screen.
we're doing the YouTube. I took off anything that was like your guys' personal data, unless you
Okay.
wanted. Let me try a screen share. Brave New World. All right. So this is the team that I have right now.
Awesome.
Of course, I transitioned from community to parent, but we do have a couple. We still do have one more community member. Last I was speaking, I believe Miss Diane von Domlin was interested in that, and I could just continue to email her and CC her on the on what we're doing, and that might be an easy way for somebody to transition into that role. But then we still have 2 more parent openings, and yeah.
And one thing I would just note on this is I received a really generous offer from the WPG secretary, Kelly DeFord. If there's anything that can be done for helping to highlight this, to create something to help explain to the community those vacancies and opportunities to serve, she's really interested in helping out with that. And just wanted to share that opportunity with you, Mark.
All right, terrific. Well, wonderful to work with Kelly. She's one of our neighbors and friends. So it's great to make that commitment. And one of the difficult things, of course, is that my wife is on the WPG. So someone needs to watch our littles, but I am very interested in going to one of those meetings and
we'd love it.
know that community. I need opportunities to meet more teachers. I'm probably looking for ways to do that, and that might be just showing up, I don't know, if recess or whatever, the best way to meet more people and get to know them, at least for my personal part.
Awesome.
But I'll see if Julie has any pointers for me, and then I think the best way is just a little bit of grassroots. I'll see if anybody in other first grade parents are interested, and or other grades. So we'll just kind of talk to people one-on-one and ask them if they'd like to be involved.
That's a great idea. And we could also, I'll just make a note here, we could put it in our newsletter.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, makes sense.
And then, Mark, can I make it one more? Can I share one more thing?
Yeah.
So for the WPG role, the role that I fill, this is going to be my last year of service, and then I plan to resign from all boards for the remainder of my time. And so I just want to let you know that, and I'll be letting WPG know again. I have notified them, but it is helpful, and I love any opportunities to work with someone who is interested in serving in that capacity to help bridge. So I'm just sharing that for intentions and for future recruitment for the liaison position.
Terrific. Your guidance and hard work is very appreciated. And we will search for the same spirit and enthusiasm. Thank you. All right. Should I stop screen sharing and then we'll move into the calendar portion of our day?
Actually, Mark, this is Paul. I just had a quick question. I did reach out to a fifth grade parent who may be interested in serving. So she's thinking it over. If she does decide she is interested in it, what's the process she needs to follow? Should she reach out to you directly, or could you explain what next steps would be if she decides she would like to serve?
Yes, I was reading our guidelines on that, and probably need a brush up. So I'll reach out to everybody on that actual process. And since I wasn't there on the August one where we were kind of going through that rhythm, my understanding is that what we would like to do is have something submitted to us why they're interested in being part of the board, something that we can just share with the team, and that would go out in addition to our agenda so that everybody in the Winterberry community would have a moment to access that information should they want to, and then they could be part of our meeting. And that person, I believe, it would be great to have a moment where they talked and we just lightly discussed, what we do and bridged that gap. And then the next form that we have as a board, we would then vote on them, and that person would come in and take over the seat as it was in the bylaws. So if they took over and the seat was up for voting in 2021 or 2022, then they would just be voted the next time that rotation came around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I was struggling to find the unmute button.
Yeah, no, so it looks like, for instance, seat J, which is a parent seat, is vacant. And should we vote this person in, they would not be voted again until 2022, when their natural seat J cycle comes back around. And I'm not sure about seat K because it's not on the, it's not written there, but it would be in the bylaws, so we could access that information. Does that sound about right, everybody? All right. I am opening up the bylaws right now, but I think it's going to tell us what we need to, unless we actually want that information right now.
That's fine with me. I mean, I think you explained it pretty well.
Okay. Just for a good time, it's right here on page 5. And it looks like, if it's an even year, these are the seats that are open. So seat J is one of the openings, as well as seat K. So seat, that's how it would fall into the rhythm, and then they'd occupy until that voting cycle came back around. Thank you. Okay, we're running towards the final gates here, and we have budgets. We have a calendar date, and some of this would be in the attachment that I sent earlier today that would have, for instance, other Anchorage School District charter dates, like, for instance, the principal evaluation was in there. I believe they wanted that date. We have written down, Julie, February, but is it January?
Well, the evaluation kind of happened in April, and it was much later in the year, and the woman what's her name? I can't remember. Timmy advised that the principal evaluation happened, in January into February, kind of. But the evaluation is based on goals and goal setting and either reaching goals or working towards goals. And since I haven't received any goals, we have to kind of back up a little, do some goals, and work on those. I think that we have some work to do as a board, just to be looking at our school. And I think that the better way to go about that is to go about it in a 3-body process, so that we can come together as a whole group and kind of collect all the goals and the hopes and desires of the entire body. And then with that, the WCC then can refine it, bring it into some manageable directive for me, and then give me those goals, which then I can develop objectives and then go to setting those to, accomplish those, which then I would be evaluated on. And then, then it would reflect back into the work that I need to do for the school. So, but, let's start with where we are, which is, if we can, start to move towards a 3-body meeting, that would be the ideal. Trying to get that together in some way, and in whether it's one big giant Zoom meeting, things like that, and then have it facilitated by someone, possibly George and Donna. I've reached out to them. There are other, the Foraker group is another group that facilitates meetings such as these. So anyhow, just wanted to put it out there so we can start to talk about possibilities of this.
Mark, can I speak for a second? Is that okay? Okay. This is a huge undertaking, but I wholeheartedly agree with Principal Pepe Phelps that a 3-body meeting would be a wonderful way to get full circle input, and in an open way. So it's not segmented. We've done a lot of survey work from our parents, and we've received things through an electronic application. But how the richness that we receive when we do community comment, when we hear from parents, that is what we'd have in a long format to be able to really think about our strategy, what our school needs, and set down some great goals and objectives. I'm just curious, like looking at this accountability timetable that you sent out, and our year and where we are. Do we think that this is something that we could try to host before the end of the calendar year? Is that possible?
I mean, if that was a question to me, I guess I probably think that it's possible. I mean, it's October. We're fresh. We're ready for the season. We want to accomplish things. I'm trying to think of like spin, and you guys have probably done this before, so I don't need to recreate the wheel.
Years ago, it's been a long time. We've done them. I was at one at the BP Energy Center, I think, years and years ago with George cool. and Donna. I mean, they're great. They're wonderful. What about the faculty? I want to ask, that it takes the faculty. It's a 3-body meeting.
Yeah.
For the Miss Lisa and Miss Glasser and Shana, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely the case that we would need a lot of lead time to put it on our calendars. Before the end of the calendar year, I think I don't know. What do you think, Lisa? They're feeling stretched. So I know
that's why I asked.
Adding an event, I don't know that typically I think Julie, Miss Pepe Phelps used to show me this picture of a teacher in a normal year, and there's like, you start, and then there's this October, November, and it's getting dark, and then you start to come out. So like, and then this year on top. So I'll just say there's a time when I don't watch movies, even though I want to, because I'm asleep.
Yeah. What would the new year, would January feel better after having, some wind in your sails after a true break?
I think one of the big questions that will arise for teachers across the board is the ask of adding something else to our plate without the possibility of removing something from our plate is going to be hard. And a 3-body meeting is not on anyone's radar right now. So it may be better in January, maybe.
I would just love to request, if I may, then, for this to be shared and thought of when you feel it's appropriate at a faculty meeting. And Principal Pepe Phelps, I leave that to you, obviously, for when it's the right time to talk about it. But if we want to try and make sure that we have our ducks in a row to have a meaningful process with Principal Pepe Phelps in February, but more so to help with the trajectory of our school and the vision of the work that we have ahead. That's the whole point of a 3-body meeting, but also it would give a good foundation for creating those goals. That's my input at this point. Thank you for your feedback.
May I offer a suggestion? Because I definitely misread that situation. It's so easy for me to overcommit. Maybe for the purpose of checking boxes and continuing growth, even in small incremental steps, we ask everybody if we do our review of Principal Pepe Phelps with the two ideas, simplify and fortify, and we just go with that. It's been an idea we chose earlier this year. We don't need to be grandiose. We just use a simple way to go about this, and then we relook at the process in a larger scope at a later time. Or is that, I'm not even totally that right either.
I think that with enough lead time, it's a doable proposition for the faculty for sure. And this is a year where it's like we came back, we're in person, but it's clear that things are not like the full steam engine isn't going yet. It's like it takes a while for it to rev up just with all the barriers. And so I personally feel like a 3-body meeting would be a great way as we kind of re-enter that zone where we're going to be at, getting to the speed. And the spring to me sounds a little bit more of that time where we can be looking ahead, hopeful, goal setting. When I think about December or this calendar year, it feels like a little bit still like there's some work right here in front.
Yeah.
So that would be my feedback. I think the faculty would be excited to do it if they had anticipated it and know it's coming and are a part of that.
And with balance.
Yeah.
Like, hearing from Miss Lisa on that in terms of preparing and balancing it out.
And excitement already for the 2022-23 school year. Because it's as things just progress to more and more back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
go ahead.
I think it would be super helpful to really think long and hard about considering having a single person who holds the responsibility and a pretty full-time responsibility of coordinating, organizing, and like setting the foundation for a successful event to happen. I mean, we had the expertise of George and Donna to guide us in the past. We may or may not have that available, but I think that that would be something that would be a very beneficial thing to consider.
Mhm. Agreed. I've told Principal Pepe Phelps that I'm very interested in helping, and I facilitate for my living, essentially, not as a facilitator, though. It needs to be an outside facilitator. But in terms of helping with logistics and, you know, that type of busy work, I'm happy to help, because it will take a lot of energy to keep it moving. But I'm sure there might be other people interested to help the principal as well. Mark, I like your comments about trying to simplify it and make sure we stay on track, just so long as it meets Principal Pepe Phelps' needs for direction.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know what I don't know. So for the record, I'm that said, maybe that the pattern that we're doing today is just perfect, which is acknowledging where we're at and when the timelines would be successful. And as long as we have something on the books that says, okay, our plan is to meet this spring and to be into this process with more sure-footedness at this time next year, we have those steps taken. And that's all, you know, and that itself checks the box. And in the efforts of looking at this year's principal evaluation, we simply ask, you know, Principal Pepe Phelps to speak on behalf of simplification and fortification for you know, 5-10 minutes, and then we acknowledge it and keep it simple. I don't know. Again, open for suggestions here.
I think that the comments about going forward, seem very reasonable, and I can reach out to a couple of sources. I mean, definitely I'll reach back out to George and Donna, and then if that, I have a couple of other ideas as far as facilitators go, and kind of by the next meeting, try to have something a little bit more formed up as far as the possibility of a January or February 3-body facilitated event. And we'll see how we put it together. And I'm happy to speak for 5 to 15 minutes on simplify and fortify. Got lots of thoughts on that. No, it's been, we just go step by step through this year, and things unfold as they do, and we do our very best to make it the very best for the children that are in front of us. That's our goal, to keep those children at the forefront of all decision making. So anyway, by the next meeting, I'll have more information about that and more offering, and then we can talk about it, or everybody can make a decision about that. I'll definitely put it on the agenda for faculty. We'll start to put that on the radar, and maybe WPG, we could continue to keep that on the agenda. I think Jesse, you may have said that last meeting, put that back on there. So I think we're on our way.
Cool. Oh, well, thank you. Boy, so we did section H there, but it fit right in with bigger picture stuff. And I think it also, we also did section G, in which we'll discuss this again at the next at our next meeting. uh, board self-evaluation. Do we know that the APC gave us the date that they would like for that? Is that right? Was that in our?
It was just a suggestion that it was that there is that the board does a self-evaluation and looks at, you know, how the board feels that they're doing their job, and that it's just a practice that the board does every year. And those dates were kind of just suggested, those dates were mainly just suggested dates to keep it on the radar.
Okay.
That happens each year. It can be, and that could happen in April. I mean, that self-evaluation doesn't have to happen early. It can happen.
About 2 months after yours.
Sure.
That way we're not squishing it too much together, but it's still fresh enough where we can say, you know, lessons learned on our behalf on how we can work together. And so whatever date we come up, I'll put down just rough notes for board self-evaluation, roughly 2 months.
And there's a self-evaluation document that that Timmy offered. So we have, there's a document that can be used and kind of maybe tweaked, looked at by the WCC, and then kind of tweaked and then adopted maybe as the self-evaluation.
And that's the one that I sent out earlier this week or last week. Okay. And then set a date for budget review. And Shayna probably has the best lens on when that date would be best for her.
Mhm.
Well, so our charter has a date for budget review. It's November 15th is when budget needs to be reviewed and approved. However, here's the caveat on that, is I don't always have the information from ASD by then in order to get everything finished for that November 15th deadline. And it also doesn't always fall in line with our November meeting, because we're the third Thursday, and it's not always, well, it's November 15th. You're never going to have a third Thursday on the 15th. so that's where it comes in a little tricky, but it doesn't have to be with district till December 15th. I mean, so I don't know, we obviously don't want to change it because it is in our charter and those dates are set there, but I do try to make it as close to those times as allowed.
That might be would you think that amending that language would be a good thing to work on? You know, maybe keep a running note on language that could be looked at in bylaws.
Yeah.
Just amend the language to say maybe that ideally it's the November 15th, but due to, district information and things like that, as close to that date as possible, rather than that date.
And I would just say, if we're doing amendments like that, just to know, then that's the time then to see if there's anything else that needs adjusting, if at all. And then that goes through a process of, it's a legal document, so it needs to be finalized and affirmed. And so it's a big deal to change that. The other thing I would think is it out of accordance with the bylaws to call a special meeting for that purpose?
No, we usually do call a special meeting for the budget. However, the only thing is do I have enough time to make that deadline? From ASD, because they like to give it to me the first week of November. However, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's closer to the second week, and then I only have days to do the budget, which
and
is not logical.
No, and it's not fair because you're kind of then put between a rock and a hard place where you're needing to respond to the requirements of the school district, but yet you don't have the information that you need to do so in a timely way. But the only thing that you can do then is just know that your board it's our duty to be responsive to a special meetings request. And if that means that you have a short run up to it, it's our duty to support you with that. So we just know you'll do your best. That's another way to go about it, is just being on point for a special meeting.
Yep.
Terrific. All right. Well, checking boxes. Team, I think that's it. I think we're transitioning into gratitude. Does that feel about right for everybody? All right. It's 7:30. Let's do it. I'll start us out in gratitude. My hardworking wife has a hospital shift right now, so I'm grateful for my kids for giving me the time and space to help create a better world for them with you all tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our teachers, and our family is giving good vibes to all the actions. Thank you.
I am also grateful to our teachers who work very hard to be sure that our students are kept safe and well taught in our charter school. And I also am grateful to the parents who prepare those little students to come to school each day, and to this board who takes the time to meet and make decisions that will help the students ultimately.
I have gratitude for our community. This has been a year where I feel like a lot of people have asked in ways they can support, and they step right up. And I'm feeling that level of support. And on a side note, I saw that Donors Choose had a matching offer for books today. So I put in a little project for some book sets, and I just submitted it yesterday. And I told my family, it's like, just let's fund it halfway and we'll get it matched. But they funded it the whole way yesterday. So we missed the matching offer, but they funded it too early. So it's just been constant notes of like, how can we support you? And then showing up. So it's been a really, I have a lot of gratitude for that.
I'll go next. Just wanted to say thank you and express gratitude to the faculty and staff for showing up every day and teaching our students and providing a welcoming, safe environment. Our kids are super happy to be back at school this year. They're doing really well. And so, we're just very, very grateful. Also a shout out to Mr. Crawford. Our older daughter just loved cross country and is looking forward to skiing this winter. So thank you very much, everybody, and keep up the good work.
And I'll probably be echoing the same thing that Paula did, but I really appreciate all you guys and the faculty and the staff. And I really enjoyed the parent-teacher meetings with Miss Glasser and Mr. Crawford today. It was really good to catch up with them. It's been a while since we've actually been able to see each other face to face and talk about our kids, and that was really nice. On top of the gratitude, there was just a couple things that I just wanted to touch bases on that I didn't really get time to kind of ask questions or different things. But one would be, I noticed that you said that the parents to help out too, besides substitutes. If somebody would like to send information on, I don't know where I could help or anything like that, but I'd be, very interested in hearing how certain ways that, I don't have any Waldorf background or anything like that, but if I can help out in any way, let me know. I'd be happy to volunteer some hours here and there and come over and help you guys. Another thing that was kind of neat that with trying to raise money for the school with garden and everything else that's going on right now, that, a lot of my coworkers didn't even know about, and I shared with them or my wife did, is that, I try to shop local as much as possible, but, we do a lot of stuff with our business to where we order quite a few things right off Amazon and Amazon Smile. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with the actual Amazon Smile, but a portion of every purchase that you do on there does get donated to the school. And so it's been pretty cool seeing some of the different tires and different things that we buy sometimes, how it actually, a pretty good chunk of that does go to the school. So that's been pretty neat too. And just another way to help raise funds as well. So if you guys don't know about it, check it out.
We should put that on the newsletter, Principal Peppy Phelps. I always forget.
Yeah, gratitude to you, Nick, for stepping up not only on top of your job, but to come in and help our school. And that is helpful. I'm going to share that out with WPG as well, because we are always looking at those passive ways that we can look to raising funds, as well as other opportunities. And that sounds like a great one. I too want to, share gratitude for Coach Crawford. And not only do I have enormous gratitude for Mr. Crawford as a teacher, but the fact that he stepped up like he did to work with our cross-country team, and just the spirit and the excitement from our more sort of elite runners to those who are doing it for fun, and just the opportunity, like my daughter, and to learn to love to run. And she's becoming a runner. And that's amazing to me. So just want to share gratitude specifically to Coach Crawford, and then also to all of our teachers. I care about each of you and really appreciate the time and energy you devote on the clock and off the clock, contract or no contract, what you're doing for our students. Thank you very much.
Adjournment. Would somebody like to motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
This is Nick, and I'll second.
Thank you, everybody. Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.